Hi, it's recording. Hello guys! Hi, I miss you. So, kamusta naman kayo? So, mag-discuss tayo kasi marami pa tayong i-cover, guys. So, I think this is a interesting topic, red blood cell studies. So, if you would bring out your notes, so ang topic natin ngayon, kasi class baka malito kayo, ang topic natin ngayon are poikilocytes, red blood cell anomalies and disorders. But before we will begin that, we have to know what is the normal morphology and the normal parts of red blood cells. So, in the first part of this PowerPoint, most probably wala yan sa notes nyo. So, I rather that you would take down notes. You can replay this video all you want. At ang pinaka-main naman na topic natin is RBC anomalies. So for you to know these anomalies, kailangan, let's talk about first the normal morphology, the normal parts of the red blood cell membrane, and the different pathways that are involved. So, ayun na. So, huwag kayong magagulat na wala sa handout to. So, I prefer that you will take down notes. Yan. So, our topic for today is red blood cell studies. Exciting to, guys. So, para malaman yung mga abnormal, like sickle cell, spherocytes, stomatocytes. So, let's just first, siyempre, i-emphasize na muna natin yung normal red blood cells. So, guys, I don't want you to ever forget the normal red blood cell morphology. So, number one, it's shaped biconcave disc. Biconcave disc. So, if you're going to look at your red blood cell here, yan, kahit saan, di ba, biconcave disc, ibig sabihin there's a shallow depression in the middle of your red blood cell. So that biconcave disc increases the surface area of your red blood cell so that it can carry oxygen. So class, your red blood cell can normally carry 4 molecules of oxygen, di ba? For heme group or yung hemoglobin nyo, they're separated into 4. So itag-iisa silang oxygen. So your size is 7 to 8 micrometers or 6 to 8 micrometers. So anything that is less than that is a microcyte. And so if it's a 5 micrometer in diameter, microcyte na siya. So if it's 10 micrometer, 9 micrometer, guys, that's already a macrocyte. So it's not that thick. Hindi siya thick. 1.5 to 2.5 micrometers. The average volume, MCV, it's 90 femtoliter. So anything that's more than that, mga 110 femtoliter, the normal value is 80 to 100 femtoliter. So anything more than that, it can be pointed out as a macrocyte. Average surface area is 160 square micrometers, and the average lifespan is only 120 days. So guys, what are the other causes na the lifespan will be less than 120 days? Example, if there is hemolytic anemia, meaning there is premature breakdown of your red blood cells due to, sabihin nating, antibodies. Yan. So, some antibodies will prematurely break down your red blood cells. Yan. Yan, pag-usapan pa natin yung hemolytic anemia. So, guys, your red blood cells, wala siyang nucleus. It's anucleate with a denser outer ring. Ha? Class, wala siyang nucleus. Reticulocyte may nucleus ba? Wala rin. But the granules that you can find in your the dots that you can find in your reticulocytes are RNA, at ang stage which has nucleus is orthochromic red blood cell, diba? Orthochromic cell. So class, the central pallor should be 1/3 of its diameter. Ano po yung central pallor? Ito yung depression in the middle. So if it's stained, dapat it's only 1/3 of its size. So if it's 2/3 na, we can say it's hypochromic. Ibig sabihin, there is less hemoglobin. Guys, ito po yung dito. So pallor, pag sinasabi natin yung the middle portion of your red blood cell. So if it's more than 2/3, guys, if it's more than 2/3, we can say that the red blood cell has less hemoglobin, and we can call it as hypochromic. At di ba pinag-usapan natin yung hyperchromic sa group chat, if you have read it, that hyperchromic tends to have high MCHC, so, and very concentrated yung hemoglobin. Yan. Pag sinabi natin hypochromic, mababa yung MCHC nila, or MCH. Cytoplasm, uniformly pink without inclusion, specifically salmon. Pink, alam nyo yan. And the size, it's almost the same size as a small lymphocyte. Kasi may mga large lymphocytes. Small lymphocyte, yan. Like this one. So, this is a lymphocyte, guys. Naku, sakalin ko kayo pag ito sinabi nyo. So, this is a neutrophil that is beginning to, this is a stab cell which is beginning to form, to separate into its lobes. Ito po ang lymphocyte. So, it's almost the same. It's almost the same size with your red blood cell. Yan, totoo yan. Siyempre, small lymphocyte. So, normal red blood cells, sobrang slight. Ang differences nila. And class, ito nga yung sinasabi ko. The asset, the one characteristic of red blood cells is it's flexible and deformable. Why? Diba? So that it can squeeze into the tight areas in your capillaries, in your small blood vessels, so that it can deliver oxygen well sa mga kanto, sa mga iskinita, sa blood vessels natin. So it should be deformable. It should have the ability to, kunyari, kung ito yung red blood cell, it can have the ability to fold, to bend, to be flexible, so that it can deliver oxygen. And guys, yan, ito na yung sa pinakababa, kung babasahin nyo, we have spectrin, ankyrin, protein 4.1, and band 3, ankyrin, para mas kita yung ankyrin. So these proteins here are found in the cytoskeleton, and are responsible to the flexibility of your red blood cells, guys. So if there's something wrong with this cytoskeleton na to, itong class, spectrin, ankyrin, protein 4.1, and protein band 3. So if there's something wrong with them, it can affect the shape and the flexibility of your red blood cells. So yan ang sentro ng topic natin today. So these proteins, yan, and the lack thereof will result to red blood cell anomalies. And so the contents, yan, kakalimutan to. So the contents is 50% protein, 40% lipids, and 10% CHO. Anong CHO? So carbohydrates. Yan. It's selective transport. So yung red blood cell membrane natin, so choosy siya. It's selective transport. So it's a, sabihin natin, private subdivision. Hindi lahat pwedeng pumasok. It's selective. Yan. So class, maganda tong image na to. So this is an elevated form of your red blood cell membrane. So hindi siya nakaka-overwhelm. Ang grabe. If you're going to look at this one, sobrang, if you notice guys, sobrang complicated it's complicated, it's beautiful. Ang complicated ng red blood cell membrane yan. Maganda tong image na to. So as you can see, yan, ito muna yung kinahunan ko. Medyo blue lang though, sorry. May iba pa tayong color. Yan. So this is the membrane of your red blood cell. Yan. Diba? Yan. So this is your membrane. It's a bilipid layer, parang sa normal cell lang. And in the bilipid layer, meron tayong mga integral proteins. Yung mga integral proteins are the proteins which go through the bilipid layer. So hindi to kamote. Guys, itong mga bilag-bilag na to, band 3, KX, GLUT1, RH class, these are proteins that are found on the red blood cell membrane. So, yan. So, dito tayo sa baba, hanapin natin yung mga sinabi ko sa kanila. Spectrin, to, and so we have anchorin. So, this is protein 4.2 naman. Ayun, yung 4.1 here. We have band 3 here. So, this is a protein. So, class, makita natin, meron tayong glycophorin A, glycophorin B. So, so carbohydrates and protein. Glycophorin A, glycophorin B. So, class, this can make up your blood blood groups, yung mga antigens sa blood groups nyo, class. Nasa surface sila ng red blood cell. Kaya ang ginagamit natin sa blood typing is blood. RH, class. Ito yung nagsasabi kung A positive ka, A negative. Mostly, lahat ng mga Pilipino is RH positive. So, it's because of this blood group, RH blood group. Ang galing. And this one, LW, this is also a blood group. So, maraming blood group ang nahanap sa surface ng red blood cell natin. What else? We have Duffy and Kell. Naku, sa blood group yun naman yung mga yan. So, class, this is just a overview of your red blood cell membrane. Grabe, no? Ang raming proteins na andyan. And we're just going to talk about the few. So, merong proteins, lipids, and carbohydrates. So, ito yung class, ito yung mga lipids nyo, itong mga circular na to, bilipid layer, so these are phospholipids. Okay ba? So, we can now proceed to the next. Yeah. So, this just almost the same image na mas, low quality. I just want to emphasize na ganito pala yon. Ito, example. Ito tayo sa may gilid. Hereditary spherocytosis. Dito. Yan. So, notice that in hereditary spherocytosis, alam po ninyo pa lang yung itsura, pero there's something wrong with bantry, ankyrin, spectrin, yung mga binalugan niya. Ito, eleptocytosis, Poikilocytosis, may mali sa 4.1. The hereditary stomatocytosis. So, yun yung mga defects. So, any defects among the protein can result to an anomaly. So, let's talk about more about your proteins. So, your proteins here, so we have two integral proteins and peripheral proteins. Yeah. So, integral proteins, example, pero side note muna tayo, sialic acid. Guys, this is important, sialic acid. Sialic acid gives the zeta potential of your red blood cell. Mamaning zeta potential. Zeta potential is mostly a negatively charged. So, ang mga red blood cells natin, lahat sila negatively charged. So, mahalaga yon. Because, di ba, kung magkakaiba sila ng charge, they will attract, di ba? Opposite attract. So, the sialic acid provides the zeta potential, which confers a negative charge so that your red blood cells will not aggregate. Yan. Sialic acids will provide the zeta potential so that your red blood cells will not aggregate to each other. Para hindi sila magdikit-dikit. So, zeta potential. Galing no, class. Kaya hindi sila nagdidikit-dikit. Ma'am, paano pag diba parang, paano yun? If you want to promote aggregation. Class, may mga sakit na natatanggal yung zeta potential in cases there is increased protein. So, in cases of multiple myeloma, mga ganon, increased protein, nawawala ang zeta potential, ang zeta potential ng mga red blood cell, and hence they will stick, they will aggregate, and one result of it can result to Rolu formation, stack of coins. Yung mga stack of coins, class, nangyayari pag there is increased protein in the circulation. Yan. So, ma'am, paano naman, kunyari, may Rolu. Anong solution nun? So, we can place NSS to separate the aggregated red blood cells from one another. Ayan, so NSS ang remedy. So, example sa blood banking class, you want to enhance the aggregation of your red blood cells. Gusto mong maging sure kung nag-aggregate ba sila, add albumin. It will enhance aggregation because it will reduce the zeta potential. And if you want to dislodge your loop formation, ang remedy doon, wash it with NSS. So we have integral proteins. Ito may mga glycophorin A and component A. Yan. So paano sabi mo yung glycophorin carbohydrate? So glyco is the carbohydrate component. Yung mga glycophorins. Peripheral proteins, so they actually on the periphery. So we have spectrin, and actin. So the lipids class, so the lipids are in bilipid layer. So dalawang layers of phospholipids with the head and with the tail. So they are the liquid sealer. So they separate the internal and external environment. It makes your red blood cell waterproof. So, internal surface of the red blood cell membrane. So, ang mga pinaka-common yan. Gusto ko kayo maging familiar. Phosphatidylcholine, glycolipids, and sphingomyelin. Class, you can read this in your RODAC. Magandang explain your RODAC. Internal surface, we have cephalin, phosphatidylinositol, and phosphatidylserine. So for the composition next, we have two lipids naman tayo. So class, cholesterol is an important part of your cell membrane, class cholesterol. So, take note that cholesterol is good for the body. Class, your cholesterol is for the red blood cell membrane or the cell membrane. Cholesterol is for creating your hormones and your lipid-soluble vitamins, yung vitamin A, D, E, and K. So, very important siya sa cell membrane. Class, it will dictate the surface area volume. So, it will make the biconcave shape, yan, surface area volume. So if there is more cholesterol, the bigger the surface. If there is lesser cholesterol, the smaller the surface. And class, it is affected by the enzyme LCAT. Pwede paki-search ang LCAT. So pag sinarinig mo ng LCAT enzyme, so it is the one that regulates your cholesterol. And so it's affected by also your bile acids. So class, pag there's something wrong with your LCAT enzyme, there can be something wrong with cholesterol resulting to changes in the surface area volume of your red blood cell. Example, so cholesterol accumulation, if there is excess cholesterol accumulation in cases of liver disease or mga fatty liver disease, there can be the formation of target cells. So dito sa baba, yung image na to, ito yung target cell. So parang may bullseye sa gitna. And target cell. So target cells is due to cholesterol. Next, class, acanthocytes. Meron mga acanthocytes dito. Ito, naka-arrow. Acanthocytes. So, they have irregular spicules. Parang may mga irregular na mga tentacles that's coming out of your red blood cells. So, this is due to a beta-lipoproteinemia. Acanthocytes can be also seen in alcoholism. Plus, when I was in college, acanthocytes. So, sa canto, maraming alcoholic. Yan, sa alcoholism. And, a beta-lipoproteinemia. Sa acanthocytes, usually letter A lahat. So, alcoholism and a beta-lipoproteinemia. LCAT deficiency can result to hemolysis. Ayan, decreased phosphorylated spectrin or altered spectrin will result to spherocytes or bite cells. So guys, dito sa last image na to, ito yung bite cells. So it's literal, parang kinagatan. Ma'am, sino kumagat? Bakit ganyan? It was bitten by your splenic macrophages, yung mga macrophage. Plus, same rin with your spherocytes. Actually, they were also bitten. Ayan. That's why they have a circular portion. The biconcave area was bitten, was snipped off. Yan. Carbohydrates, class. Yan yung mga carbohydrates. So, glycoprotein, part pa rin ng mga carbohydrates. So, yung mga blood groups natin has carbohydrates. So, these are important metabolic pathways that happens in your body. So Embden-Meyerhof pathway or anaerobic glycolysis. So most of your ATP, so the energy of your red blood cells are formed in the Embden-Meyerhof pathway. If I'm not mistaken, 90% of your ATP. Yan. In every one molecule of glucose, it will form 4 molecules of ATP. Yan. Pero, to make it, kailangan magbayad ng dalawang ATP. Yan. Next, hexose monophosphate shunt. So hexose monophosphate shunt will produce NADPH and which will eventually produce glutathione. So that, di ba glutathione, it's an antioxidant. So to prevent the red blood cell, the hemoglobin from oxidating mo lang, oxidating the word, oxidation. So hexose monophosphate shunt protects the hemoglobin from oxidation. We have methemoglobin reduction pathway. Last we talked about this. That methemoglobin, isn't it that if a patient has methemoglobin, na-oxidize naman yung iron, nasa ferrous form. So this methemoglobin reduction pathway, see to it that your iron is in the reduced state. And so methemoglobin reduction pathway. And Rappaport-Leyeux-Behring shunt, isn't it that this is the one which provides your 2,3-DPG, diba? So your 2,3-DPG is for, it facilitates the delivery of oxygen. So pag andyan ng 2,3-DPG, diba, shift to the right. Pag ang 2,3-DPG nawala, it will shift to the left. Once 2,3-DPG is gone, your red blood cell tends to hold on to more oxygen. So guys, here, so you from top to bottom, glucose to your lactate. So lactate or lactic acid is a metabolite of Embden-Meyerhof. So parang tayo, class, di ba, pag nag-exercise, pag nawala ng oxygen, sumasakit na, nag-exercise tayo, ganyan. Tapos sasakit yung mga kasukasuhan natin. Sumasakit dahil due to lactic acid formation, due to decreased oxygen. So lactic acid ang napo-form. So same thing with your red blood cells. As they go through anaerobic glycolysis, nai-increase rin ang lactic acid. So, example, yung mga stored blood natin, bumababa yung pH nila, they become acidic because of excess lactate or lactic acid. What else? Due to potassium, nare-release due to, ang sinasabi ko class, in stored blood. Pag yung mga na-store na blood for blood donors. So, if you are storing the blood for a very long time, it tends to accumulate lactic acid. It tends to accumulate potassium. Kaya ang mga stored blood, which was left in the refrigerator for a very long time, tends to have lower pH. Ayan. Due to potassium and lactic acid. So class, ito, to glucose, to down to the lactate. Ma'am San, sabi mo ATP. Ayan, napaproduce nga ng 4 na ATP. So that's your Embden-Meyerhof pathway or anaerobic glycolysis. Dito naman tayo sa taas. Itong una kong kinahunan na malaki. So, glutathione. So this is the hexose monophosphate pathway. So this is the one that produces glutathione for antioxidant activity. So, it protects your hemoglobin from oxidation. Itong malit na binulugan ko dito, this is their 2,3-DPG or some books 2,3-BPG. So, this can go through your Rappaport-Leyeux-Behring shunt. Basic. At meron tayong methemoglobin reduction. So, this pathway can proceed to the production the reduction of iron para maging ferric state. And hexose monophosphate shunt. So it will generate NADPH which reduces glutathione to protect the cell from oxidative injury. Methemoglobin reduction pathway. So, huwag kakalimutan itong mga to It will oxidize your heme or it will prevent oxidation of heme by reducing iron. Pwede pakisulat. And Rappaport-Leyeux-Behring pathway. So, it produces 2,3-DPG for oxygen delivery facilitation. kakalimutan ko ang 4 na pathway and ano yan, forever. So in the breakdown of hemolysis, so pwedeng as the red blood cell ages or pwedeng pag may hemolytic anemia. So there are 2 types of breakdown or hemolysis. So we have extravascular and intravascular hemolysis. So most of your red blood cell breakdown happens extravascularly. So, extravascular meaning outside the blood vessels. So, sino ang mga in charge nito? Reticuloendothelial system. So, the macrophages will phagocytose the old red blood cell in the spleen. So, yung sinasabi ko dati that, di ba meron tayong mga splenic macrophages. So once your red blood cell will reach its 120th day, so pupunta na siya sa spleen and it will be engulfed by their splenic macrophages. So yun yung 90% of hemoglobin or red blood cell breakdown. What else? It also happens in the liver, wherein your red blood cell, yung heme, it will be converted to bilirubin. Naalala? Tapos eventually, magiging stercobilin and urobilin. Diba? Stercobilin will give the brown color in your stool and urobilin will give the yellow color in your stool. Yan. So, nalala nyo yun. So, extravascular lahat yun, guys. Yung intravascular, ito hindi ko pa ito na-discuss. Your RBCs are destroyed in the blood vessels, wherein they are carried by your haptoglobin. So, this ones, your haptoglobin are the protein carriers of free hemoglobin. Yan. So, pag ang red blood cell, nag-breakdown siya, so nasira siya sa loob ng blood vessels class, it will release heme. Diba? Heme is protoporphyrin 9 and iron. So it will carried by your haptoglobin. Yan. So, ayan. And your haptoglobin can bring your free hemoglobin to your liver. So, minsan class, pag so this one shows your extravascular hemolysis. So pinapakita that there's presence of macrophages, your liver is involved. In this one, in our extravascular and intravascular hemolysis, there is the participation of haptoglobin, yan, the free hemoglobin carrier. So class, andito na tayo. So we're finished with the normal red blood cells. Now, we're heading on to your pathologic red blood cells. Yan. Pause muna tayo, get a drink. Ayan, relax, get your notes. Ito na. Nakita ba yung kilikili ko? Yan, get your notes. Dito na tayo. Magsimula na tayo. So, pathologic red blood cells. So, these are abnormal red blood cells. So, our criteria in the microscopic, syempre, the size. Yan, is it big? Is it small? Variation in shape. So, when there's variation in shape, we call it poikilocytosis. If there's a variation on size, we call it anisocytosis. Kanina narinig ko lang, it's aniso daw, or anisocytosis. Anisocytosis. Poikilocytosis means shape. Anisochromasia means variation in color. Yan. Isa pa? So, anisocytosis means there is variation in shape. So, what are the shapes? In size, in size. So, we have macrocytes, microcytes. Yan. Normocytes, normal in size. Poikilocytosis, so variation in shape. So, andito nilalabas yung mga elliptocytosis, ovalocytosis, stomatocytosis, and anisochromasia, so variation in color. So, dito lalabas yung hypochromic, hyperchromic, polychromatophilic or polychromasia. Okay? So, anisocytosis, variation in size. So, you can see in this image, meron tayong hypersegmented, neutrophil. Ang raming lobes nitong neutrophil na to. Alam nyo, hypersegmented neutrophil na hanap in cases of megaloblastic anemia. So notice that this red blood cell is quite big. It's a macrocyte. Ayan. Meron na rin tayong ito, mga bilog na bilog. So this is a spherocyte. It's quite small. And sobrang iba-iba yung mga sizes dyan. So when we say macrocyte, it should be less than 7 micrometers. Yan. And its MCV is, siyempre, volume niya, it's less than 80 femtoliters. So there is impaired hemoglobin synthesis. Hemoglobin ay naapektuhan. That's why it's small. Microcytes is also dictated by actually iron. So hemoglobin synthesis, diba? Iron and hemoglobin are very much related to each other. So, microcytes na tayo, class. So, huwag kakalimutan to, ha? So, microcytes, so number 1, it's due to ineffective iron utilization, just like what I mentioned. And, so either your iron is affected and your, actually, pwede rin protoporphyrin and pwede rin globin synthesis. Yan. So macrocytes, it's ineffective iron utilization. There's something wrong with iron, and there's a defect in globin. Yan. And there's something wrong with class protoporphyrin. So, ito yung mga sakit. Iron deficiency, thalassemia, sideroblastic anemia, anemia of chronic disease, and lead poisoning. And we can use the mnemonic scales. Yan. So thalassemia, anemia of chronic disease, and iron deficiency. Can we just have a short review? So if you remember, guys, that your hemoglobin, so your hemoglobin consists of hem and globin. And your globin, meron tayong 2 types, di ba? Sa adults, alpha and beta globin. So, guys, pag globin ang naapektuhan, we pointed out to what? Thalassemia. Yan. Pag globin ang naapektuhan, we pointed out to thalassemia. And class, if in your heme, we have protoporphyrin 9 and iron. So if there's something wrong with iron, therefore it's iron deficiency anemia. Yan. Pwede ba? IDA. And iron deficiency anemia. Yan. Class, pag protoporphyrin 9 naman ang mali, we have sideroblastic. It's protoporphyrin 9, and when there's something wrong with protoporphyrin 9, it will result to sideroblastic anemia. How? Sideroblastic anemia is characterized by a nucleus. Sidero can point out to iron. So in the nucleus, so in sideroblastic anemia class, there's no proper maturity. So yung red blood cell, may nucleus pa siya. And class, since there's something wrong with protoporphyrin 9, hindi ko makapit yung iron sa protoporphyrin 9. So if this is the nucleus, the iron surrounds, so constellates or satellites around the nucleus of the nucleus. So may mga dots sa paligid ng nucleus class in sideroblastic anemia. So once you will find a ringed sideroblast, so yung may iron sa paligid ng nucleus, it's sideroblastic anemia. There's something wrong with protoporphyrin 9. And last but not the least is lead poisoning. Ma'am, random naman ng lead poisoning. So, lead poisoning happens when there is lead in the paints of the home, ganyan, or may nakain na merong lead. So, guys, lead inhibits the action of dehydrase. So, sa heme synthesis class, dehydrase yung enzyme na yon, and ferrochelatase. Yan, ferrochelatase. Ma'am, okay. And anemia of chronic disease. So anemia of chronic disease happens when there is, this is secondary. So when there is chronic inflammation, infection, ganyan. Anemia of chronic disease happens. Ma'am, ano connection naman dun sa microcytic anemia? In anemia of chronic disease class, apparently the macrophages traps the iron. So, and it traps the iron, hence it cannot bind to your protoporphyrin 9. So, class, tong microcytic anemia na to sa anemia of chronic disease, iron deficiency, lead poisoning, and sideroblastic anemia. Basically, there's something wrong with iron. And iron, class, um, ang red blood cell kasi, class, 'di ba, from immature to mature, 'di ba, the immature cells tends to be big. Yan, malalaki ang mga immature cell. And it as it matures, lumiliit ang size, 'di ba? So, class, the cell continuously matures, lumiliit siya. Apparently, once there is no iron, paliit pa siya ng paliit. Yan. The iron stops the the maturity of your red blood cell. Kasi once a red blood cell mature, it becomes smaller. So once the iron is present already in protoporphyrin 9, it's attached in protoporphyrin 9 and becomes heme, it will stop maturing. But since the iron cannot participate here fully, so iron deficiency, so it's deficient, hindi nag-a-attach yung iron, there's not enough iron to go around. Hence, the red blood cell tends to mature further and further until it gets small. Kaya pag microcytic anemia or may microcytosis, or if it's microcytic, ganyan, maliliit, class ang red blood cell due to iron. Ha, ma'am, thalassemia. Apparently, class, in thalassemia, of course, iron is not involved, it's globin. But if there is absent of alpha and beta globin, your cells tends to be small as well. So, wag kakalimutan itong tails. So, can we just have a review? So, thalassemia, so, it's a hemoglobinopathy. So, there's something wrong with the globin chains. Letter A, anemia of chronic disease. So anemia of chronic disease is secondary to chronic infection, chronic inflammation, and apparently the macrophages tends to trap the iron. Yan. What else? Iron deficiency. So in cases where there is increased demand of iron or increased nutrient intake or there is bleeding, ganyan. Pag may hookworm, pwede magkaroon ng iron deficiency anemia. So when there is less iron, your red blood cell tend to be smaller. Lead poisoning. So it inhibits your D-ALA, dehydrase, and peroxylatase. So there's something wrong with heme synthesis here. So the result is a small red blood cell or microcytic red blood cell, and we have sideroblastic anemia. So your iron cannot attach to a normal protoporphyrin, or there's the lack of a normal protoporphyrin, wherein your iron satellites around the nucleus of the red blood cell. So that's sideroblastic anemia. So yan ang tails. So macrocytic anemia yan. Magkakalimutan. Okay? Paano? Ano ba yan? Okay, next na po natin. Where's my annotations? Clear drawings. Okay. So next, guys, is your macrocytes. So macrocytes are big. So they are more than 9 micrometers, and its MCV exceeds 100 femtoliters. Plus, in macrocytes, meron tayong defective DNA synthesis. This usually happens when there is vitamin B12 and folic acid deficiency. Huwag kakalimutan to, please. So this can result to megaloblastic anemia when there is a deficiency of either vitamin B12 and folic acid. Kaya nga ang mga pregnant women, binibigyan sila ng folic acid. Class, ang B12 kasi, it's usually found among animal products. So, dapat, ang mga vegetarians, nag-intake sila ng B-complex, ng B12, to prevent any types of anemia. What else, class? In conditions where membrane cholesterol and lecithin levels are increased. Yan. So, the cholesterol levels will increase your surface area. Yan. In cases of obstructive liver disease. Pag nadamay na ang liver disease, andito na aklas ang LCAT, LCAT enzymes. Yan. And we have gigantocytes. So for your microcytes, so it can be it can it can result to megaloblastic anemia or megaloblastic processes. We have post splenectomy pag tinanggal yung spleen after a chemotherapy, liver disease I told you in relation to LCAT, hemolytic anemia, hypothyroidism. So class, these are the grading scale. So ibig sabihin, hindi ibig sabihin na nakakita ka ng isang macrocyte is the person has macrocytosis. Nakakita ka ng poikilocyte, the patient has this type of disease. Hindi ibig sabihin nun. So sabi niya, normal pa ang 5%. Yan. So I don't really want you to memorize this yet kasi mas gusto ko i-memorize yung clinical significance, but I just want to give you an idea that sometimes some of the abnormal looking cells are just artifacts. So you have to observe your peripheral blood smear properly. Kailangan mo siyang tingnan ng maigi kung consistent ba all throughout the smear. And so slight pa ang 5 to 10%. So you will report 1 plus if there is about 25%, 10 to 25%. So, ganon. Dapat you have to observe the slide completely. So, we have this term, anisochromasia. So, there is a variation in color. So, I think nasabi ko na to, hypochromia. So, increased hemoglobin, decreased. Decreased hemoglobin. And, kita nyo naman, pag hypochromia, we have decreased hemoglobin synthesis. So something wrong with the hemoglobin and defect in globin chain synthesis. So, sabihin natin, thalassemia. Not all hypochromic cells are microcytic, pero usually magka-partner sila ha. Usually, pag microcytic cells, usually hypochromic na rin. We have anulocyte or ghost cell. Thin or poorly hemoglobinized. So, grading scale, class, may grading scale rin tayo ng hypochromia. So, depending on the size of the pallor. Meron ng thin rim talaga, 4+. I think we can find this in here in this image. Sobrang laki na nung pallor masyado. Thin rim, 4+. Yan. So, class, I think I already mentioned this. I hate you pag hindi mo alam pag first time mo lang narinig tong polychromasia or polychromatophilia. I think I've been mentioning this for a very long time. So, if you're going to read that there is apparent polychromasia in the blood smear, it points out to increased reticulocytes in the peripheral blood smear. Ma'am, kailan ito nangyayari? Diba, in cases wherein there is increased production of your red blood cells. So, sa sobrang bilis ng pag-produce ng red blood cells, your bone marrow is prematurely releasing reticulocytes. So, class, if I'm not mistaken, the normal value of reticulocytes is 1 to 1.5%. 1 to 5.5%. So, makita ka ng isa, dalawa, tatlo sa isang smear. So, dapat konti lang. So, if it's more than that, so 2%, 3%, this is the case of stress reticulocytes. So, it can result to polychromasia kasi blue-gray ang color ng reticulocytes. So, polychromasia, so you have to grade it as well. At, andito na tayo sa poikilocytosis. So guys, I want you to memorize this one, yung clinical significance nila. I'll explain it one by one para sa inyo. So you have to help yourself. When I was in college, I made a flashcard. I think I can link you a online flashcard. Parang may nakita akong flashcard somewhere. I made my own flashcard with papers and para ma-memorize ko ang poikilocytes. And actually, it's very interesting. Yan. So, in this image, you can see the normal. Then, dapat may pallor, biconcave disc. So, now, apparently, you're going to look at your spherocytes. Microspherocyte. Irregularly contracted cell. Notice, wala na silang pallor. Elliptocyte, ovalocyte, magkaiba sila. We have dacrocyte, teardrop poikilocyte. So dacro means tear. So pag ang tao may dacrocystitis, there is an inflammation of the tear lacrimal gland or tear gland, yan. So dacrocystitis. So yun, dacrocyte, teardrop. And I'm seeing the cryocyte. Ayan. Meron tayong target cell. So, the other name of, tinuro ko, kita na lang. Ayan. We have target cell. So, the other name of target cell is Mexican hat cell. Kasi pag sa gilid, mukha siyang Mexican hat or sombrero cell. Ayan. Or podocyte. We have stomatocyte here. We are mouth cell. Diba? Sa plant, we have stomata. Yan. So, it's mouth. So, stomatocyte. We have keratocytes. So, or bite cell or degmacyte. Kasi mukhang kinagat. Schistocyte, guys. Ito, talagang fragment lang siya. Ayan, ito yung nabanggit ko kanina, acanthocyte. So, it has long irregular spicules. Yung acanto, sa canto, maraming alcoholic. In cases of abetalipoproteinemia, acanthocyte, we have echinocyte. Kung irregular ang acanthocyte class, regular ang spicules ng echinocyte. It's like a flower. Or other term is a crenated cell. So, pwedeng artifact lang to. We have sickle cell class. Na-miss niyo ba to? Ayan. So, let's proceed. So, may grading scale din sila, ha? So, hindi ibig sabihin nakahanap ka ng isa. Yun. Meron ng sakit yung pasyente. So, ayan. And I want you to read the grading scale na lang. Pero, so far naman, I won't make your grade. Okay, let's start. So, we have, poikilocytes, meaning abnormality or variance in shape. Poikilocytes secondary to membrane abnormalities. So, notice, guys, so since membrane abnormality sila, so I want you to look at anong abnormal sa kanila. Diba? Anong part of the membrane? And let's start. So we have ovalocyte and elliptocyte. So we have egg shape. So pag sabi natin egg shape, we point it out to ovalocyte. When it's elliptocyte, it's usually a rod shape form or sausage shape or pencil. So though ganito sila, they look abnormal but they function normally. So class, there's something wrong. So pakilagay dyan or paki-underline protein band 4.1. So in the membrane, it has protein band 4. There's something wrong with protein band 4.1. So ayan. So sabi niya, it can appear normochromic, hypochromic, normocytic, macrocytic. So it can be big as well. Yan. So class, kung kunwari, nahirapan ka, tignan mo yung MCV, kung increase or decrease. Diba? So, in ovalocytes, we have egg shape, we have myelodysplastic syndrome. Class, ang myelodysplastic is a type of pre-leukemia or pre-cancer. We have thalassemia. In megaloblastic anemia, kasi may pagkamalaki ang ang ovalocytes. We have pencil shape. Iron deficiency anemia, hereditary, elliptocytosis, there's such a thing, and idiopathic myelofibrosis. Class, ang pinaka significant na anomaly pag may myelofibrosis is teardrop cell or dacrocyte. I'll explain it later. Ayan. So, naman normal naman pag ovalocyte and elliptocyte. Hindi ko naman kayo lilutuhin dyan. Next, spherocyte class. So, spherocytes has smaller volume than a normal cell. So, expect, increased MCV, decreased MCV. Yan, ha? Please, okay, syempre, naman tayo, case study. So, spherocyte definitely indicate a hemolytic process. Hemolytic. So, dito tayo, isa-isa lang tayo. So, dito tayo, loss. So, in spherocyte, there is loss of 3 important structures, spectrin, ankyrin, and band 3.1. So, expect that in your spherocytes, there is decreased MCV kasi maliit sila, but increased MCHC due to the concentration of hemoglobin. So, if you're going to look at the image, so bilog na bilog yung spherocyte, wala na po siyang pallor. And it will result to an abnormal osmotic fragility result. Gusto ko lang itong ipasok that osmotic fragility result. So, ibig sabihin class, ang spherocytes, it is very fragile. Ayan. Abnormal OFT, osmotic fragility, it's very fragile. So, if you will expose it to a hypotonic or a hypotonic solution, madali siyang maglalays. Yan. It may be hereditary or acquired. It has two common causes. Number one, hereditary spherocytosis. So people who have hereditary spherocytosis has lost their spectrin, ankyrin, and band 3.1. Hereditary, inborn to, diba? Next, it can happen, spherocytosis or spherocytes can happen in cases of immune hemolytic anemia. I think I have an image there. Since sabi nating immune, the cause of these are antibodies. And we can detect these antibodies through Coombs test or anti-globin test. Ayan, ma-encounter nyo rin to sa sero or sa blood banking. So I just want to emphasize na if you want to differentiate hereditary spherocytosis, kung ano nag-cause ng spherocytosis, o hereditary ba, or hemolytic anemia, kasi mahalaga eh. If it's hemolytic anemia, ibig sabihin, there's an antibody that is prematurely breaking down our red blood cells. So, kailangan natin malaman yan. So, kailangan natin imbestigahan. So, we need to test for Coombs test or anti-globin test. And the other mechanisms of loss of membrane, normal aging process, storage phenomenon, and severe burns. So, tama yung narinig nyo, class. There is the loss of membrane. Nawala yung some parts of the membrane. Paano nangyari yun? So, example dito sa image na to, thermal injury. So, in cases of burns. So, yung red blood cell class, nasunog siya. And upon burning class, it was fragmented. So the largest fragment reseals again and forms a spherocyte. So in severe burns, your red blood cells are thermally injured. So naghihiwalay-hiwalay sila and the largest fragment becomes a spherocyte. Next class, intrinsic abnormalities. So this can happen in cases of hereditary spherocytosis. So there is the lack of the spectrin, ankyrin, and band 3. So sabi niya, uncoupling of the lipid bilayer. So there is the arrangement. So na-rearrange yung membrane, hindi nga normal and becomes circular, the surface area decreases. So I just want to remind you that your spherocytes are easily broken down. Madali silang mag-hemolyze. Immune hemolysis. So this happens when your antibodies attach to red cells. Yan. So we can detect these antibodies through Coombs test or anti-globin test. Class, once there's a presence of antibody and antigen, it will attract a macrophage. So apparently, this macrophage bit. So they bit the sides of your red blood cell, but they did not fully engulf. Hindi nila kinain yung red blood cell. They just bit a portion of your red blood cell, and apparently it resealed again. So the largest fragment parang dun sa thermal and resealed again, and ayun, it becomes circular. Galing mo, guys. Wala na pinag-aaralan nyo. So next, we have echinocytes or craniated cells and Burr cells. So when we say echinocytes class, parang flower para sa akin because the projections, the spicules, the bumps are evenly distributed. Echinocytes. Ayan. Echinocytes, parang may sea creatures na sea urchins. Okay. Anyway, so echinocytes class, parang flower, regular. Tignan yung, aside, kung nakakita, nakita niyo yung acanthocyte kanina, may mga mahaba siyang spicules or projections. Ito, maikli lang, pare-pareho. So, these are echinocytes. It happens when your blood is placed in an anticoagulant for a very long time. So, example, EDTA. Gumawa ka ng smear after 4 hours. Next, among stored blood. Yan. So, yeah. Once you collect it from, blood donors and you have stored it for a very long time. Next class, bursars. So, irregularly sized and uneven spicules. Class, this is common when there is kidney disease. So, ito, renal insufficiency. And what else? Azotemia. If I'm not mistaken, azotemia is increase in mga urea, NPNs, and in cases of dehydration, bursar. So, guys, can I just reiterate? Ang echinocytes is usually an artifact. So, walang sakit na involved dito. So, it's due to the anticoagulant present in blood. Anticoagulant that was added by the medical technologists. So, walang sakit dyan. And bursar, it's related to your kidney. So, renal insufficiency, when the person is dehydrated and where there is azotemia, increase in urea, ganun, of non-protein nitrogen, yan, bursars. Next, acanthocytes, thorny or spur or ito talaga irregular, sobrang pointed. Yan, mas mahaba, iba-iba, pangkanto. So, that's acanthocytes. So, lahat ng A has acanthocytes, a beta-lipoproteinemia, alcoholism, yan. So, class, like in the previous slides, acanthocytes is affected by the presence of lipids, of cholesterol. Yan. So, if the liver is affected, it can affect your cholesterol levels in your membrane. So, yan, acanthocytes. Isa. Kalimutan, beta-lipoproteinemia, alcoholism, liver diseases. Next class, stomatocytes or mouth cells. Mga bang mouth? So, slit-like or mouth or stoma. So, stomata. Yan, so, may butas, may slit sa red blood cell. So, one cause of stomatocytes is hereditary stomatocytosis. So, when we say hereditary, so it's congenital, it's inborn. So, there's something wrong with your genes. Apparently, class, pag may stomatocytes ka, there's high cellular sodium and low potassium content. So, inside the red, ang normal kasi, P. So, potassium in, sodium out. Diba? Diba normal yun? So, potassium should stay inside your red blood cell, and inside the red blood cell is your potassium, outside of your red blood cell is your sodium. Pero class, pag may hereditary stomatocytosis ka, your sodium tends to accumulate inside the red blood cell. At class, meron pa tayo isang kasabihan. Where sodium goes, water follows. So, once sodium enters the red blood cell, water follows. So, it tends to overhydrate your red blood cell. So, maraming fluid sa red blood cell mo, resulting to low MCHC. So, hypochromic, nagmumukhang low MCHC at hypochromic yung mga cells mo. When you have hereditary spherocytosis, what else, class? When you have Rh-null disease, you completely have the absence of Rh. Walang Rh. And next, obstructive liver disease. So, mga LCAT pa rin. So, decrease in LCAT. We have less common, pero gusto ko syempre yung common yung memorize niya. So, liver disease due to decreased LCAT. Alam niyo na saan dapat. So, pag LCAT, it's related to membrane, to cholesterol. So, beta-lipoproteinemia, next, stomatocytosis. Ayan, Rh-null. Kakalimutan na, apat na yan. Next, target cell. So, babasa niyo na naman, LCAT na naman. So, ang laki ng effect ng cholesterol sa membrane. So, target cells or podocytes or leptocytes, no, tatanong ko lahat yan. Mexican hat, kanina namin yung nabasa ko, sabi niya, sombrero cells. Ma'am, di naman sombrero, once it's on the side, mga sombrero. Pero sa akin, pag nasa side siya, mukha siyang crucible. Naalala niyo sa inorganic chemistry, mga crucible. It happens, target cells happens due to excess cholesterol resulting to increased surface volume ratio. So, lumaki yung volume, yung surface area ng red blood cell. So, it has resulted to target cells. Yan. So, mukha siyang target. Mukha siyang bullseye. So, class, this happens in cases of post-splenectomy. So, when we say post-splenectomy, once your spleen is removed, your cells will look like it's a target cell. Hemoglobinopathy. So, in cases of thalassemia, ganyan, hemoglobin C, and liver disease. Ang ginawa ko PHL. Yan, PHL. So, Mexican and Filipino. Sabi nila kasi, di ba, medyo magkamukha ang mga Mexicano at Filipino. Either a person is either Mexican or Filipino. So, sabi ni Chokoy. So, PHL, post-splenectomy, hemoglobinopathy, and liver disease. Target. Teacher ko, target cells, sabi niya. So, next tayo. So, first six ba yun is about abnormality in their membranes. So, now, secondary to trauma. So, something happened. So, we have teardrop cells. So, this is due to trauma. Ma'am, what type of trauma? Due to squeezing and fragmentation during splenic and bone marrow passage. So, your red blood cells, class, diba, lumalabas sila sa bone marrow, lumalabas sila sa spleen. Pero at some point, nagiging masikip sa spleen and sa bone marrow, then nasa-squeeze yung dulo. That's why it looked like a teardrop. So, teardrop or dacrocyte or dacryocyte. Pwede rin. Nabasa rin akong ganun. Or racket shape. Racket. So, class, it's seen in myelofibrosis, myelophthisic anemia, hypersplenism, functional asplenia. Pwedeng pakidagdag yung, ang dinagdag ko dito is functional asplenia. So, class, in myelofibrosis and myelophthisic anemia, there is an infiltration in the bone marrow. Pag myelofibrosis, class, there is increased connective tissue in the bone marrow. Dapat normally, di ba, cells ang laman ng bone marrow. But when you have myelofibrosis, nagiging fibrous. Puro connective tissue, class, yung bone marrow mo. Myelophthisic anemia is the infiltration of other tissues. May pumapasok rin na mga ibang tissue sa bone marrow. Yan. Pag myelofibrosis, connective tissue ang pumasok. Myelophthisic, other tissues. Galing, no, class? Huwag niyo kalimutan yan, ha? So, iyak ka pag may myelofibrosis ka at may myelophthisic anemia ka. Kasi nga, apparently, your bone marrow, your spleen in hypersplenism and functional asplenia becomes too crowded for the red blood cell. So once it wants to go out of the spleen and the bone marrow, it tends to be squeezed out. Yan, napipiga siya. So, what else? In functional asplenia. Pag sinabing functional asplenia, your spleen becomes non-functional. Walang kwentang spleen. In cases of hemolytic anemia, thalassemia, and sickle cell anemia. Class, if you will notice this image, pansin yung dulo. No teardrop shape. Is it pointed to different direction? If it's pointed to different direction, class, it's really teardrop cell. Pero pag it's pointed to a single direction, lahat nung patulis is pointing on one direction, artifact daw yan. Next class, schistocytes. And schistocytes or fragmented red blood cell. So, the causes of these ones is mechanical trauma, pwedeng heat rin, like your spherocytes. We have next, contact with fibrin strands. or damaged endothelium. So, fibrin strands, class, are strands from clotting. So, yan, may mga fibrin strands. So, yung red blood cell, class, bumangga in contact with fibrin strands at napira-piraso siya. So, it can produce schistocytes. So, in cases of microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, microangiopathic MAHA, and DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation. So in these cases, class, ang raming clot na nabubuo, ang raming fibrin clots na nabubuo, and there's no way, there's inside the blood vessel, and there's no other way where the red blood cell can pass. So due to mechanical trauma on passing in contact with fibrin strands, ayun, they are fragmented. What else? Intrinsic defects of red cells. So, antibody-altered red blood cells. Spherocytes. Okay. The hallmark of hemolytic anemia are helmet cells. Ayan. Triangular cells or keratocytes. So, class, all of these are all actually fragmented cells. Yan. So, hemolytic anemia. So, when we talk about hemolytic anemia, this is decreased red blood cells. Why? Due to premature hemolysis. Or wag natin kasi gamitin yung hemolytic. Due to premature breakdown of your red blood cell na may nagkakos kung bakit nasisira agad ang red blood cell. This can be due to immune causes, mga antibodies. So, ang result nito, class, kung may hemolytic anemia, excessive breakdown of your red blood cell, ito mga naproproduce, schistocytes, helmet cells, triangular cells, and keratocytes. So, ano pa nagkakos ng trauma? Ito, prosthetic heart valve. Yan. So, once your red blood cell will pass through a prosthetic heart valve, so it can traumatize the red blood cells, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, clostridial infection. So, Clostridium botulinum, Clostridium tetani, yung tetanus, We have DIC, thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, TTP, and HUS. Okay. So, ang MAHA, microenzymatic hemolytic anemia. Ayan. Okay. Keratocytes, horn cell, bite cell, or degmacyte. So, class, mukhang kinagatan ang cell natin. Pair of spicules or horns surrounding the gap. It can happen upon the removal of a hind's body. So, in cases of splenic culling, C-U-L-L-I-N-G, diba, ang sa katawan kasi, matipid rin siya. So, once there's a hind's body, pag-usapan rin natin yung hind's body. So, your spleen, nasasayangan siya dun sa red blood cell na may hind's body. Sabi niya, pwede ka pa magamit. So, ikakal niya, tatanggalin niya yung hind's body. Tapos, sabi niya, red blood cell, go, distribute. Go, mag-function ka pa rin. Ayan. So, ayun. Due to the culling of C-U-L-L-I-N-G of the spleen. Naalala niyo yan? Yes. And erythrocyte is caught on a fibrin stand. So, same thing. If there is excessive clot formation, pwedeng sumabog doon ang erythrocyte. We have semilunar bodies. So, half moon or crescent shape. Large pale pink staining ghost of the red blood cell. And so, in cases of malaria or excessive hemolysis. We have microspherocytes or Poikilocytes. Kasi hindi natin masyadong common yan. In cases of severe burns and hereditary Poikilocytosis. Yeah. So, smaller than spherocytes. So, class, this one, dali lang yung last na pag-aral natin. We have poikilocytes secondary to abnormal hemoglobin content. So, we have sickle cells, CC crystals, and SC crystals. Nabanggit ko na ito natin. So, sickle cells, so the other name is drepanocyte. Isn't it that this happens when a person has sickle cell anemia? Kindly review, please, anong amino acids ang affected pag may sickle cell? Okay. Diba? Sickle, yung panggapas. Diba? So, ayan, it's banana shape or crescent shape. What else? We have crystals. We have CC crystals or bar of gold. And SC crystal, yung Washington Monument or hand and glove. I think I discuss ko na to dati, di ba? So, ito yung CC crystals at ito yung HESI. So, Washington Monument or Hand in Glove. Okay. So, for the next topic, ito ang pag-aaral natin, RBC inclusion bodies. So, guys, I'll give you a couple of links. Ang raming links about poikilocytes. So, I want you to review them, want to read their notes at take down. I hope you learned something. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. Record. Stop recording.